What if the animatronics from Five Nights at Freddy's 1 were never haunted? This is the question and possible retcon I tried to answer and explore in the previous video this is a part 2 of. If you haven't seen it, go and watch that video to get the full context and a better understanding of what I'm talking about here. Because this video expands on the ideas introduced in that one and is all about how different Fazbear Frights, the horror attraction in Five Nights at Freddy's 3 would be in an alternate universe where animatronic entertainers were never possessed. However, first I need to bring up Five Nights at Freddy's 2, since I know some of you are dying to know how that game would fit into this universe and why I'm skipping over it to jump straight into FNAF 3. Well, this is because that game defeated me. I admit, I had to raise the white flag and surrender to Five Nights at Freddy's 2 because it got me. When I make my theory videos, I try to strictly work with only what the games I'm talking about offer me and not change much about them unless I'm given the leeway and wiggle room to do so. Well, the problems with Five Nights at Freddy's 2 are A. It's a prequel to Five Nights at Freddy's, B. It introduces yet another retcon that I just can't work with, and C. The evidence of ghosts in that game is just too numerous to ignore or hand wave away. I mean, just look at the mangle here. It's been taken apart and put back together and taken apart and put back together over and over again so many times that, how do you explain this thing walking around, climbing up walls and clinging to the ceiling without any supernatural interference? Yes. Mangle is mainly responsible for killing any chance of Five Nights at Freddy's 2 fitting into my non-canon universe. Even if Mangle wasn't the one responsible, there was just too much evidence of ghostly activity. As for the retcon it introduced, FNAF 2 claims it's the place that the bite of 87 happened at, when I clearly stated in my previous video that the FNAF 1 location was where it happened in my non-canon story. So unless the bite of 87 simultaneously took place at both the FNAF 1 and 2 locations, yeah, Five Nights at Freddy's 2 is non-canon in my non-canon universe. So yeah, the puppet doesn't exist in my non-canon universe either, which truly makes it a terrible place because I think we can all agree that having this stick figure who has clown makeup on existing in all of our lives has vastly improved them tenfold. Another thing I need to address is the gameplay you see in the background was not recorded by me. This is because I'm a big wimp when it comes to certain horror games. Now, I'm one of those big dumb caveman types who needs to defend his honor and bravery by saying I'm not afraid of playing every horror game. I love games where monsters chase you and you have to hide from them as you explore the world. Five Nights at Freddy's Into the Pit is an amazing horror game I love playing. I also love Resident Evil, the Bendy and the Ink Machine series, and BioShock, although I don't think some would consider that a horror game series. But there's something about Five Nights at Freddy's 3 where I can't get through even half of the game before I need to close out of it. In Five Nights at Freddy's 4, heh, yeah, forget about that mess. I can't even get past night 2 without closing it. There's just something about a game where you're stuck in one room but one or more monsters inevitably make their way to you and you can't see them heading your way, or is nearly impossible to spot in Springtrap's case, that gets to me on a fundamental level. And in case you're wondering, yes, this also affects me when I play Five Nights at Freddy's 1 when Freddy gets off the stage. It's why I cam stall that bear bastard on the stage as much as possible when playing on the nights he's activated. Also hate how the jump scares are no longer a punishment for letting the monster get you and now are unavoidable distractions while keeping an eye out for a guy who hides on you in the cameras. Regardless, FNAF 3 is still my favorite game in the entire franchise because I just love how intimidating this game is. I also love the story and how the series antagonist, who was a monster when he was a man, became a literal monster after death, before becoming a walking, talking, packing peanut. I love Five Nights at Freddy's 3, but I just can't bring myself to play it all the way through just to get some footage. So credit to whoever I got the gameplay video from, You're way braver than I am. So, previously on Five Nights at Freddy's Ball Z, Freddy and his friends found out they weren't driven by something. Spring Bonnie realized he don't do a reel. Mike Schmidt was tripping mad balls but still got rewarded as a hero by going super security guard and facing off against the evil Lord Fazbear Entertainment, and everybody in the comment section thought I lost my damn mind. Now it's over 30 years later and a new company has bought the property that once housed the beloved Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Things are different this time around because, wow, Springtrap, you look different, buddy. Yeah, Golden Freddy is playing the role this time around, and it's not just the costume change. Almost everything from the gameplay mechanics to the story has been completely altered to fit into a universe where there are no haunted animatronics. The first thing that's different is that there are no references to the toy animatronics. Oh, you thought me bringing up the puppet not existing was just a terrible offhand joke? No, it wasn't, because none of the toy animatronics exist in this universe. As far as this continuity's events are concerned, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza from the first game and Fredbear's Family Diner are the only two locations that existed. I said in the previous video Freddy Fazbear's Pizza was a chain of restaurants, but usually in a chain all the links are exactly the same, so there was no one off-brand location with the toys and puppet. This means that the mini-games featuring them don't exist as well, and it makes sense since in them you were taking cake to the ghosts of murdered children. But if we were to believe that ghosts don't exist in this universe since possession doesn't exist, then how could we deliver cake to little dead Timmy and Susie here? There are still mini-games in this version of Five Nights at Freddy's 3, but I'd be spoiling things too quickly if I talked about them right now. Speaking of things that would still be in FNAF 3, the Phantoms would still be around. Yay! Everybody's least favorite part of the game, and I give it a thumbs up saying, yep, still here. The reason the Phantoms are still here is because they're hallucinations, not ghosts. So as our brave security guard is suffocating to death when the ventilation goes offline, at least the Phantoms will still keep us company. Oh joy. However, these Phantoms would work differently, because first I have some awesome news. Guess who would be part of the Phantom Troop? This guy! It made me so mad that Bonnie wasn't one of the Phantoms in Five Nights at Freddy's 3. I get why Scott Cawthon didn't want players confusing Phantom Bonnie with Cheese Man here, but look at how awesome this fan render is. Bonnie would have comforted and encouraged me to keep playing all the way through, and I'd let him scream in my face as much as he wanted. Wait, that sounded kind of wrong. Don't think of it like that. Don't think of it like... The Phantoms wouldn't jump scare you every time you see them. They wouldn't even appear in your office at all. Since Five Nights at Freddy's 3 relies on the camera so much, how terrifying would it be to barely spot them on cameras as well, and spotting them is what causes things to break down. Let's go into detail on which animatronics would be Phantoms and what their gameplay mechanics would be. First off, none of the Phantom Menaces would appear unless you get a ventilation error, which would only be fair, right? So as long as you keep that air flowing, you won't be seeing some crazy stuff, man. As soon as the ventilation goes offline, that's when this place will give you the spooks. The Phantoms would be purposely as well hidden on camera as Spring Yard Zone here. Not only would it make them scarier just to catch a glimpse of them, but if you didn't, you wouldn't be able to answer if something going offline was because it happened on its own, or if it was a phantom you didn't see that caused it. No matter how long you let the ventilation go, the Phantoms will only appear every once in a while so their scare factor doesn't wear off. First up, we have Phantom Bonnie. He would be the most common. If he appears, you can kiss your cameras goodbye until you reboot them. Watermelon Chica here would be the second most common, and if you find her, she would cause the audio error. Not only would not Balloon Boy's voice box for the PA system break, but it would cause an audible noise to play in your office that would draw Springboard to it until you rebooted audio. Phantom Foxy is rare, and when spotted, he would cause the vent doors to open up, the flashing red alarm to blare, and draw Springlet into said vents. There would be a separate door ducts error from the ventilation error that you'd need to fix if you don't want Springtime to visit you by sliding into fun. And by fun, I mean your office, of course. Phantom Freddy would be the rarest to find, and he's a 2-for-1 deal. Eyeing him up would cause 2 of the 3 previously mentioned errors between video, audio, and door ducts. If 2 errors are going off already, then Freddy won't appear. Gameplay mechanics for the Phantoms would work much better than what we got in the final release because they'd feel like a natural part of the game and world, and even better, not constantly jump scaring you just for playing the game. The final boss and main threat, Springtails, would be a bastard to deal with. For the most part, he would act like Big Brother Bunny from the final release. You know, hiding on camera, toying with you, can be led room to room with the audio system, and being the most annoying thing you ever dreaded in your life. What would make Broken Build-A-Bear different from Putrid Peter Cottontail is focusing on him for too long on the cameras will cause one of your system errors to happen. The error you'll most often trip is the ventilation error. Just like with Bunny Ball's bitch bastard in the regular game, you can lead Grimy Gummy Bear all over the place with audio or prevent him from reaching you by barricading the vent duct doors. Misuse and abuse of your tools, like in the regular game, will cause either error to occur. Golden Freddy has one advantage over Springtrap, and it's the guy in the suit not being deceased. That's right, you're not dealing with the dead man anymore, so this means that from night 1, Fredtrap will be faster than Springtrap, and he'll only get faster with each passing night. So who's in that raggedy worn out suit and out to get you each night? While we're on the subject, who are you playing as, and why would they choose to keep coming back each night and deal with a madman in this literal toxic workplace? Well, let's tackle that story in the intermission minigame, shall we? Instead of outright spelling out my story to you, I thought it would be more fun to pull a Scott Cawthon and only give you bits and pieces to work with. I'm going to show you all the phone calls, describe each minigame as they play out after every night, and even display every possible ending you could get, and it'll be up to you to sort out all the details and come up with your own interpretation of my story. Have fun!
Hey, glad you made it in. Oh, I think you're going to have a blast working with us. And because you're like a really hot chick, I think you're going to drive a big crowd to this place. You know, you wouldn't happen to be free on the weekend, by the way, would you? Gotta remember that's not important right now. Anyways, right now this place is just flashing lights and spooky props. I really thought we'd track down a lead by now, but if we don't have something by the end of the week, we might just have to zip you up in some crazy bunny suit and make you run around yelling boo. We actually have that caution, by the way. Hope it's not too small or tight on you. So when the place opens in like a week from now, people will come in from the opposite end of the building and work their way towards you, then past you, and out towards the exit. Yeah, you've officially become part of the show, and you'll be starring as the security guard. Well, that's if you're not running around in that tight furry suit. Don't worry about that. I'm sure we'll find something before the end of the week. Now, your job will be monitoring the camera so like nobody steals anything or makes out in the corner. You'll also be part of the show, which I think will make it feel really authentic, and I'm warning you, some of the guests might not take their eyes off you. Yeah. So we're working with some guy who says he can get access to the evidence the police scooped up like years ago. He also knows his way into the other boarded up pizzerias. He's charging us a lot, but he promises that he can find a good lead. So right now, all you have to deal with are the decorations and a foxy head, which might be authentic. Then again, it could be just another crappy cosplay. There's also an old school fan in your office to keep your cool. Metal though. Watch the fingers. So all you need to do is just watch the security cameras to your right, and with a push of that blue button, you can toggle between the hall cams and the vent cams. And on your left, you can bring up your maintenance panel. Use this to reboot any systems that may go offline. Yeah, and trying to make this place authentic, we might have overdone it a bit. Some of this equipment is barely functional. There's a real risk that some of this stuff might catch on fire. But the most important thing you want to watch out for is that ventilation. Look, this place gives everyone the spooks, and if you cut off that air for too long, then you'll start seeing some crazy stuff. Keep the air flowing and just keep an eye on things. We'll try to have something new for you tomorrow night.
The end of night minigames would be a far cry from what we got in the official release. They would still be 8-bit styled games and you'd be playing as the animatronics from Five Nights at Freddy's 1, but the location and what you do there would be different. In these minigames, you have to guide Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy through a police station, dodging and avoiding police officers. Every time you run into a police officer, the minigame simply restarts and you get to retry as much as you want. As each night progresses, the mini games get harder. There are always two paths that lead you to two different ways you can end the minigame. Which path you take in each minigame determines what ending you get. In the first night minigame, we play as Freddy, and the police station has barely any officers in it, though still enough to provide somewhat of a challenge. There are two paths you can take. One will lead you to a room where Purple Guy shows up and dismantles you. The other leads Freddy outside to the back of a large truck. The path leading to the truck will have police officers dotted all throughout it, while the path leading to Freddy's doom will be empty.
Hey, I got like some awesome news. So first off, that guy pulled through and got us the security tapes that were used in the original case. These are like prehistoric. We should have these playing on the screens around every corner. It'll make the place feel that much more authentic. But I got even better news. We found one. A real one. And it... Hey, what are you doing? Some nutjob just broke into the joint. What are you? Look, I gotta go. I'm sure it's in there somewhere.
During the Night 2 minigame, we play as Bonnie, and the path to Purple Guy now has some police officers in it. The path to the truck outside has a few police officers and is kinda tricky.
Look, I don't know who you are or why you came back after 2 nights. All you need to know is that thing that's in there with you, that's not an animatronic. That's a man in a suit. A very dangerous man. He caused the children to go missing all those decades ago. He's a lot older now, but that suit he's wearing makes him a walking tank. But thankfully, it has a flaw that will help keep you alive. The suit has an audio receiver that forces it and the one wearing it to follow the sound of children and parties to the source. Use it to keep him far away from you as possible. I wish I could tell you who I was or meet with you after your shift, but if that guy follows you around and finds out about me, it could put us both in extreme danger. I'll try to help you out as much as I can, but for now, just keep him away from you.
In the Night 3 minigame, we play as Chica, and the path to the truck outside is basically an obstacle course with how many police officers are numbering it. The path to Purple Guy also has a few police officers in it.
I think I know why you're caught up in all this. I did some digging on you and found out your father used to own Fazbear Entertainment. Actually, he co-owned it, and his co-owner was the man responsible for the tragedy and is now in the bear suit hunting you down. Look, I'm sorry for everything you had to go through, but there's a way we can stop him. The suit he's wearing is a spring-locked animatronic, meaning that the robot parts are still in there, but are compressed with faulty locks. Normally, these are really unstable and just breathing on them would be enough to lock the animatronics back into place, ending the life of anyone inside. He must have padlocked those parts of the suit so he can move around freely. Well, we can't take him out that way. There is another. Fire. We burn this place to the ground and make it look like an accident. I'm gonna need more time to study the floor plans and equipment so we can pull this off. Hang in there.
We play as Foxy in the Night 4 game, and the path to the truck outside now requires pixel-perfect timing to avoid all of the police officers, and the path to Purple Guy dismantling you is an obstacle course.
Alright, everything is almost into place. You just need to keep this going for one more night after tonight, then we can put this all behind us. I'm sure we'll both be looking forward to seeing this place burn and letting everything go. I know exactly how you feel right now. I was in your shoes decades ago, and I know what it's like to have monsters from your past try to hunt you down. Stay strong. I promise this will all be worth it when it's over.
In the Night 5 minigame, we play as Purple Guy making his way through the police station. The path leading outside has been completely blocked off and barricaded by a row of police officers. The path leading to the dismantling room is suspiciously empty. When Purple Guy enters the room, there are two sprites of animatronics, a yellow bear and a white rabbit. As soon as Purple Guy goes near one of them, a police officer rushes into the room and pushes Purple Guy into the white rabbit suit. A familiar scene plays out as red sprites shoot out from Purple Guy in the rabbit suit and he slumps over. The police officer laughs as he takes off his disguise, revealing yet another Purple Guy. The Purple Guy gets into the yellow bear costume as the white rabbit animatronic stands back up, now all jittery. The minigame ends with this other purple man in the bear suit laughing. After completing all 5 nights in the main game, you get an ending where you're presented with a message saying, "Good job, sport. See you next week," and an image of a hand holding a smartphone with a notification showing payment received from Fazbear Frights Ltd. But that isn't the true end of the story. After all, we still have one more night to get through.
You just couldn't stay away. Just had to go back down memory lane and relive the good times. Can't say I blame you. Who doesn't miss this place? You were supposed to be the last one to die all those years ago, you know? And I would have got you if you weren't locked out of the building that day. Let's fix that little mistake tonight. Don't worry, I brought a friend along to make sure there's nowhere you can run.
Welcome to Night 6, a whole different kind of animal, because you're not just dealing with one threat this time. So remember when I said earlier that Spring Bonnie doesn't exist in this universe? Well, that was a half-truth. Say hello to Bonnabelle Bunny. It's basically Spring Bonnie but recolored white and with a different name. Look, I had to work with what I was given, okay? Just like in the main universe, Bonnabelle becomes the suit Purple Guy gets trapped in and dies. But he doesn't possess it. Oh no, this is Corpse Trap. A broken bunny suit walking around like a shuffling zombie because the corpse inside has further broken it. He will be pursuing you along with Springtrap and doesn't bother hiding or climbing in the vents. He's also slower than Springtrap, which makes him easier to deal with if it weren't for one little thing. Watching him for too long will cause a video error to happen instantly. Outside of all that, it's business as usual until 6 a.m. After Night 6 is over, you get one of 3 endings depending on how you did on all 4 of the end of night minigames with the animatronics. How many you saved will determine which one you get. Fire tragically claims woman victim. The remains of a woman were found after a fire blazed at Fazbear Frights, the horror attraction that engulfed the entire building. Investigators and firefighters told reporters that the deceased woman was found next to a charred exoskeleton with a human skeleton attached to it. Eyewitnesses to the fire claimed that they saw someone in a burnt bear costume break out of the burning building and flee from the scene into the night. The body of the woman, charred skeleton, or fleeing man in the costume have yet to be identified. Multiple victims claimed in fire. A fire fully engulfed the latest theme park, Fazbear Frights, the horror attraction. Eyewitnesses claim watching a large truck pulling up to the burning building before unloading multiple animatronics that ran inside. Nobody re-emerged from the fire, and firefighters found the remains of the robots next to 2 charred male skeletons. The remains of a woman was found separate from the animatronics and skeletons. Nobody from this tragedy has been identified yet. Woman saved by heroic animatronics from burning building. Fazbear Frights, the horror attraction, went up in flames, but a large truck was seen backing up to it by witnesses of the event. From out of the back of the truck ran 4 colorful anthropomorphic robots who selflessly charged into the collapsing building. Out of all 4 of the animatronics, only one, a broken orange-colored fox, rushed out of the building holding an unconscious woman close to it, only suffering with minor burns. After handing the woman off to paramedics, the fox robot oddly collapsed on the spot and completely broke down. Its systems seemed to have been pushed past its limits as it was used to heroically sacrifice itself to save the unconscious woman. After the fire was put out, the remains of the other 3 robots were found next to a couple of charred skeletons, and investigators assumed that the animatronics were trying to save those 2 individuals as well, but unfortunately couldn't find the exit in time. The woman is being treated for her injuries in hospital and has refused to identify herself to reporters. Whew, that took a while for me to make. I'm just hoping my surface level story is enough of a hook for you all to dive a little deeper. I can see why Scott Cawthon writes the stories for his games the way he does, because this was a lot of fun to make. Deciding which pieces I was willing to share and what to leave ambiguous was tough, but in the end I think it led to a great alternative story. Thank you for watching this far because it made you my shining star. I'm gonna go have a nap.
Always do it on my own, so I gotta get through it. And the only thing I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow, till I finally prove it. Never listen to the no's, I just wanna keep moving. Keep my head up when I act, head up, that's a fact. Never looking back, I'ma keep my